Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Shift by Shift. I am Hockey Pones, and this video is going to focus on Julien Gauthier. As with all of my other Shift by Shift videos, of course, this is not a highlight reel. It's actually a game from last year, February 13th. So, once again, this is a video not from his draft year, and so he's a little bit less experienced compared to other videos of prospects when I usually try to get videos of their draft year. So, as always, I hate to sound like a broken record, but don't judge a player based off of one game. And so sorry if you watch a bunch of my videos and you hear me say that every time, but I'd rather sound like a broken record to you than for a new person who hasn't seen a video before of mine assume that I'm making blanket statements and they want to judge players. Anyway, one of the first things I want to point out is some very bad positioning right here. Well, it's actually going to come up in just a moment here. With Gauthier, it's not just him, but it's also his partner. They are both looking at the puck behind the net, and they are completely oblivious to the danger zone behind them. And Gauthier could definitely have shown a little bit more awareness, and not only was he watching the puck, but he turned away from the most dangerous player, in this case, the guy in the slot, and that's just going to be a recurring theme in my criticism of Gauthier. And see, one of the things that I'm trying to make a point about him being a year younger, or being before his draft year, is a lot of this is probably just experience and how he's going to be utilized by the coach. But one of the weaknesses I see in this particular video is he really struggles with danger sense. I don't want to say defensive awareness because he does have a really nice defensive play later on in the video, which I will highlight as well. I'm not just here to pick on the poor kid. But there are issues in terms of his positioning in the defensive zone and situational awareness. And again, it's just something that's going to be a recurring theme, and hopefully as he matures and gets more experience, he improves at it. And it's kind of a tale of two prospects, actually, when we talk about Gauthier compared to the last prospect. I talked about Logan Brown, where I think that Gauthier is, at this point, at least in this video, he is a very one-dimensional player, and to his credit, he plays that one dimension really well. But if you know me and know my videos, I like to actually, I'm going to stop right here because this is just another issue with Gauthier where he is so far away from anything that could potentially be dangerous. He just has himself in no man's land. And granted, it didn't result in a scoring play, but he just doesn't position himself well to either support the breakout or to neutralize a player. Anyway, I lost my train of thought, but I believe I was talking about Gauthier and him being a bit one-dimensional, and I'll talk about that one dimension that he does very well. But if you've seen my videos before and you've heard me talk about prospects and their likelihood to succeed and the prospects that I prefer players who are very well-rounded and have a lot of utility to them. And Gauthier does not have a lot of utility at this point. He is mostly an offensive complementary player, which is very different from the two-way catalyst that I thought Logan Brown was. And don't misunderstand me, I'm not trying to bring Logan Brown into this video and talk too much about him because I did an entirely different video on him, but I really want to emphasize the importance that there are different kinds of offensive players. And just because a player is strictly offensive doesn't mean that they're all the same. You have some complementary players, you have some catalysts. At least that's how I kind of break them down. And when I think of catalysts, I think of players who will rush the puck up and basically create the offensive chances by how they distribute and utilize their teammates. And then there are players like Gauthier, who is usually on the wings. He doesn't carry the puck up the ice. He might do it a couple times, but he's not the driving force behind the offense. And in the offensive zone, he parks himself in front of the net, and he does create chaos, and he creates problems for the opposition, but he basically makes it so his teammates can succeed by creating chaos around the net. He doesn't distribute the puck or create deception for on the opposition. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying he's a bad player, it's just he's a different kind of player. And one of the things I do really like about Gauthier is he knows his role and he plays it well. I don't think there's one time or one shift when he's in the offensive zone that he isn't parked in front of the net. And that's just what he does, and he thrives on it. He's a big kid. He's listed at 6'4", 220 pounds on the Q website. And granted, that's from this year. I don't know how big he was last year, but he's still a pretty big kid. So he does use his size very well around the net, has very soft hands. So he is a dangerous offensive threat in the offensive zone. Now, with that said, I still am a firm believer of players, especially younger players, trying to evolve their game and adding another dimension, another element where they can still be productive and contributory to the team's success if they're not putting points up on the score sheet. That's just my personal preference, and so I'm going to maybe sound a little bit more critical on Gauthier because he is a different kind of player, but don't take it as me saying that he sucks or he's going to be a bust. I'm just talking about my personal preferences in terms of player styles. Now, just speaking of some raw skills, I think that he has a pretty good burst of speed. He doesn't move his feet very quickly, which he'll have to work on as he goes up the ranks, but I think that his straight-ahead speed is really good, which we actually see a bit of it here, as well as some of his hockey sense. And this is a good display of teamwork where, because of the angle he's coming in to neutralize the opposition, the defender is able to focus on the player with the puck and actually take away the shot. So with the way that the two of these players work together, they actually end up neutralizing a potential 2-on-1, which is the result of Gauthier back-checking and using some good speed to catch up to the play. And so that's where I'm not trying to judge him completely on, or saying that he's completely oblivious to the defensive zone. Obviously, there was a legitimate threat there, and he did hustle back to neutralize it. I just think that when he is in the defensive zone and the play is already developing, or it's a set play, so to speak. He has a little bit of trouble positioning himself and setting himself up to succeed, to actually be effective defensively. And that's actually going to lead to a key goal against at the very end of the game. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, back to his raw skills. I mentioned his skating, which I think his straight ahead speed is decent. He has very good balance. He's strong on his legs. He's obviously pretty hard to move for being such a big kid. His footwork, as I said, needs work. So that's just a recap of what I already said. His hands, I think, around the net are very, very good. When he's not screening the goalie, he is able to maneuver around, and he actually sets up some pretty soft passes, and he's actually done a couple already in this game. But he does cause legitimate chaos for the opposition around the net. So I do really like that about him, and I do think that he's a very enjoyable player to watch in that aspect. He does, what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't want to say he cheats or takes a easy way out, but when he has the puck and he's entering the zone, he doesn't have as much confidence with carrying the puck up the ice. He's not a very avid stick handler, and that's okay. He's around the net most of the time, and that's where his bread and butter is. I am going to shut up for a while and just let me listen to the in-game audio. It is in French, so you can either learn French very quickly or just enjoy the show. But I will definitely be back, and he does have a couple more things that I wanted to point out. But long and short of it, since those things do happen at the very end of the video and I won't be able to recap it, I'll just recap it now. I do think that he has a lot of good tools, and I think that if he can develop his overall game and be more well-rounded where he can be effective even when he's not scoring, then I think that he has a lot to offer as a prospect. If he doesn't, and if he just kind of stagnates with just hanging around the net, I do think that he would have a lot of struggles going into the professional ranks, just because you can't really get away with being one-dimensional anymore in the NHL. But one thing that I forgot to point out is that you can see him getting noticeably better as the game goes on. And again, that's just something that I like. I mean, we're not seeing him at his best, which means that, you know, if he's not at his best, then he can certainly have better performances and he can improve and be more consistent. And of course, when you're 17 years old, then consistency is a huge issue for any prospect. So, as always, don't judge a player based off of one game or one day. And sorry if I say that too many times or if I'm annoying about it, but I am emphatic about it for a reason. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now and let you listen to the in-game audio, and I will be back towards the end.
Fraser dans le cercle droit, se déplace, passe vers Richard. Richard qui remet vers Aubé-Kubel dans le cercle droit maintenant, pris position au lieu de Fraser, passe vers Richard et vers Fraser. Permutation de position à nouveau. Fraser remise vers Richard, tente une passe dans l'enclave vers Aubé-Kubel qui va d'un tir complètement raté. Il faut dire que
Imagine les Foreurs de Val-d'Or avec un système un peu plus défensif et un gardien qui fait le travail. C'est une équipe qui serait très dangereuse.
Absolument. Dégagement de Chapman jusqu'à l'autre bout. Reste 1 minute 12 à la supériorité numérique des Foreurs. Une remise de Fraser vers Richard. Richard qui tente de prendre avantage sur Carignan. C'est repris par Fraser au point d'appui qui redirige vers Aubé-Kubel. Aubé-Kubel vers Fraser. À la pointe gauche, dirige un tir bloqué par Fléchard. Retourne dans l'enclave. Poudrier tente de s'en emparer. Aubé-Kubel maintenant tente de revenir devant le filet. Une remise qui sera saisie par Fraser. Passe vers Poudrier qui tentait de compléter. Fleshler, encore une fois, prise à contre-position. Complètement couché dans ce...
C'est logique. C'est logique que ce soit Tremblay l'instigateur.
Absolument. Changement emporté par Aubé. Boykov saisit le disque en coin de patinoire. Remise vers Aubé. Au centre vers Golovkov qui entre sur le plan droit. Dirige un tir bloqué par Bouchard. Retour sur sa droite. C'est Aubé-Kubel tente de dégager. Voilà qui est fait jusqu'à l'autre bout. Aubé dirige en territoire central vers Golovkov. Content de faire des vides. Non, il n'a pas touché à la rondelle. Il y aura donc dégagement refusé aux dépens. Jette les gars le premier. Je suis pas certain que Tremblay voulait engager le combat.
C'est exactement l'inverse d'hier. Tu parlais du combat de Philippe Raymond. C'est exactement l'inverse.
Ouais. Fraser passe vers Beauregard. Beauregard vers Galipo qui dirige un tir qui a été dévié devant. Et Fleshler qui est
QV pour les défenseurs de la LHJMQ. Et c'est très rare. Écoute, il y en a... je pense qu'il y en a 12 ou 13 des défenseurs de la LHJMQ en vue du prochain repêchage.
Et il y en a de très bons. Le Brise-Bois, Jérémy Roy. Tu as parlé de Galipo aussi.
Zboril, Thomas Chabot, Nicolas Maloche.
Ouais.
Il y en a de très bons, effectivement.
Ouais. Aubé qui transporte le disque, qui passe vers Boykov. Il faut dire qu'il y en a 3, même 4 seulement chez les Sea Dogs de Saint John. Ça aide à la statistique. Aubé-Kubel remet vers Galipo, passe en territoire central, saisi cependant par Aubé. Aubé qui pousse plus loin, Pelletier-Leblanc remet vers Boucher, le frappé aussitôt par Aubé-Kubel. Pelletier-Leblanc qui entre le disque chez les Foreurs, c'est repris cependant par Beauregard. Passe de Fraser vers Aubé-Kubel, entre sur le flanc gauche. Aubé-Kubel qui s'amène dans l'enclave. Un tir de Gauthier bloqué du bout du bloqueur par Fleshler. Gauthier qui remet vers Aubé-Kubel à nouveau. Et vers Galipo, descend le long de la rampe. Il va d'un tir bloqué par Fleshler, un tir à la glace qui ne donnera aucun...
On fera comme au football, lorsqu'on donne un demi-sac, on pourrait donner un demi-but.
Les enjeux emportés par Avon à la reprise. Boykov remise vers Chapman et tous les espoirs se ravivent tout d'un coup au centre Marcel Dion. C'est 3-2. Reste encore plus de 18 minutes au compteur. Gauthier qui entre en territoire des voltigeurs sur le flanc gauche, frappé cependant par Aubé, perd le disque. Boykov reprend. Laisse vers Avon derrière le filet. Gauthier qui a fait une chute, a perdu le disque et c'est Aubé qui va relancer. Il passe vers Chapman qui lui échappe. Aubé-Kubel qui perd le disque à son tour et Chapman remet au centre de la patinoire vers Golovkov. Une passe soulevée qui sera récupérée cependant par à la droite de Fleshler. Raymond et Archambault qui s'affrontent au cercle de mise en jeu, remporté par Archambault. Gauthier en se retournant tentait un tir sans rater. Raymond récupère le disque le long de la rampe, passe vers Doucet. Rare présence du quatrième trio dans ce match. Passe vers Boykov. Boykov qui transporte le disque, entre sur le flanc droit. Devant Hoult, dirige un tir du revers qui sera bloqué par Bouchard, qui Raymond. C'est remporté par Raymond. Bush roule vers le point d'appui, tente une remise vers Boykov, pose une seule main. Récupéré par Fraser qui passe vers Dion, tente de sortir la rondelle du territoire. Voilà qui est fait, ça glisse jusqu'à l'autre bout. Aubé doit faire vite, là. Archambault s'amène, tente de le mettre en échec, mais Aubé qui garde le disque entre ses patins, cherche la rondelle, la retrouve finalement. C'est Archambault qui la reprend. Bagarre pour la rondelle à 4 actuellement le long de la rampe. Fin de chute là, du côté de Gauthier. C'est Doucet qui est venu le mettre en échec, mais Gauthier reprend. Tente une remise vers Fraser qui s'est avancé. Raymond, lui, est venu le rejoindre alors qu'il a été frappé au même instant. Et je crois qu'il y a une punition.
Un beau regard, Gauthier. Anthony Richard à l'attaque. Flanqué d'Aubé-Kubel et Fraser à la pointe.
2-5 ce soir, les Foreurs en avantage numérique. Rattel qui tente de récupérer le disque. Une remise d'Aubé-Kubel au point d'appui qui va glisser à l'autre bout alors que Fraser retraite dans son territoire. Passe vers Richard. Richard, la transversale vers Beauregard qui entre chez les Voltigeurs, remet vers Gauthier sur le flanc droit. S'installe au cercle et vers Beauregard. Beauregard au point d'appui vers Fraser. Fraser qui feinte le tir, finalement dirige un tir qui sera bloqué par Flèche.
Il travaille toujours au premier rang du circuit pour une deuxième saison consécutive en avantage numérique.
Les enjeux emportés par Chapman. La liberté en coin de patinoire, la mise en échec par Gauthier qui le retient contre la rampe. Gauthier et la liberté qui tombe. Remise d'Aubé-Kubel au point d'appui vers Fraser. La rondelle qui ne quittera pas le territoire. Intervention de Richard dans l'enclave. Attention, Beauregard, il y a d'espace pour lui. Il dirige un tir bloqué par Flèche du bout de la mitaine. Retour. Aubé-Kubel passe vers Fraser. Se déplace gauche-droite. Le long de la ligne bleue s'avance, remise vers Aubé-Kubel qui dirige un tir, mais à nouveau le déplacement de
De le sentir constamment dans le fond de son filet, c'est ce qui explique le fait qu'il ne semble pas en pleine confiance.
La chassée de Chapman du sac de mise en jeu, remportée facilement par Beauregard. Fraser à la pointe droite remet vers Aubé-Kubel. Aubé-Kubel qui est rejoint par Chapman, fait le trébucher. Aubé-Kubel qui garde cependant la rondelle et qui contourne le filet du gardien Fleshler, mais c'est Boykov qui va lui ravir le disque et du revers pousse à l'autre bout. Sortie de Bouchard en troisième période, 3-2, les Forts en avant. Les Voltigeurs qui tentent de mettre fin à une séquence de 6 défaites consécutives. Aubé-Kubel tente de revenir devant le filet. Rondelle qui s'en reprise par son coéquipier Beauregard derrière le filet. Beauregard au cercle de mise en jeu revient vers le point d'appui. Feinte là de remettre au point d'appui, mais là,
directement devant l'officiel.
Beauregard était atteint au visage. Les officiels ne l'ont pas chassé. En fait, n'ont pas chassé le joueur qui l'a touché au visage et n'ont pas chassé non plus Beauregard. C'est le juge qui n'a pas reçu le bâton au visage. Là.
Écoute, je ne sais pas à quel point peut-être les officiels ont hâte la... Ah! Et là, quel geste gratuit de Gauthier.
Ouais, et Gauthier sera chassé là-dessus. Et Boykov se relève péniblement derrière le filet.
Ah, c'est... Et là...
L'homme s'événant. Il se tortille de tous les sens.
Rideau de son vrai nom.
Oui, exact.
Bon, évidemment, on parle de l'homme sévénal.
Les 100 jeux remportés par les Foreurs. Richard au point d'appui qui s'installe. Richard remet devant vers Poudry qui est posté au cercle et vers Richard. Richard qui remet maintenant vers Beauregard. Beauregard qui fait le tir, remise vers Richard. Attention, de son côté vers Aubé-Kubel. Bel arrêt du bout de la jambière de Fleshler qui a tardé avant de compléter son déplacement. Et heureusement pour Fleshler, le tir avait peu de vélocité. Aubé-Kubel passe vers Beauregard dans le sac de mise en jeu vers Aubé-Kubel. Fait le tir, remise vers Richard. Un tir qui est bloqué par son coéquipier Poudrier devant le filet. Poudrier qui récupère le disque derrière le filet. C'est l'officiel qui a empêché la sortie. Attention, passe devant le filet vers Richard. Richard qui va le tir, bloqué par Fleshler. Ça a touché le poteau là, à la gauche du gardien de but des Voltigeurs. Voilà, il y a un coup de bâton de Chapman qui va de rester impuni. Tiens, compte! Et c'est Anthony Beauregard, alors que Trevor Bush est de retour au banc des siens, qui marque le 4e filet des Foreurs.
Oui, mais encore une fois, cette indiscipline.
Le sol de son camp, cependant, dirige du revers derrière le filet de Fleshler.
Okay, well, we are approaching the bottom half of the third period, and Gauthier only has about 3 shifts left here. And I want to point out 2 of them where he has a hand in a scoring play for and a hand in a scoring play against. So this is the play where he's going to have a hand in the goal for, and this is just a result of Gauthier driving to the net. And what he does here is he's going to have a little loop here around the defender, and the defender, of course, has to respect the pass and cover him, which means that the goalie has to focus on the play in front of him. But since this is all so quick and they have a hard time sorting it out, he doesn't get an assist on the play, but he basically creates the disorder for the goal to be scored for the team. So I do think that he did a great job driving to the net there and forcing the defenseman to cover him. And then, of course, he giveth and he taketh away, where in this particular play, it's just another issue of situational awareness. They're up 5-3, and it's the last couple minutes of the third period. So the goalie's pulled, and take a look here and tell me what you see. I'll give you a second or two. If you haven't figured it out yet, he is behind 5, that's right, 5 opposing players who all want to score. And he doesn't neutralize or cover any of them, which is a problem. So this is going to result in a goal against. Sorry, I spoiled a few seconds ahead of time for you. But this is what happens when he focuses too much on playing offensively and he doesn't focus defensively. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.